Coucou les amis, c'est moi Patricia et bienvenue à ma chaîne where I am an English speaker learning the language of French, le français. So today I want to talk about my favorite French podcasts to learn French and how they've been helpful to me. So learning French through podcasts has transformed my language. It has assisted me greatly and made the process more enjoyable. So I have a list in front of me of what to talk about. The world of French podcasts it's becoming very popular. Podcasts in general has started becoming quite popular. And so I'm even trying to join the ranks, as you can see. So with that being said, having it playing in your ear is very effective. There are some benefits to having French as a language that's running in the background, if that is the language you're learning, or if there's any others that you're learning. However, this is a French language learning podcast. So before we go through the list of the 7 podcasts that I'm currently listening to that I actually quite enjoy, and it really depends on the day of what I'm in a mood for, but I will say it's quite helpful. I want to talk about what those benefits are. The benefits of listening to a different podcast would be that it assists with hearing the language, hearing it being spoken. Of course, it increases your ear to be able to understand the words that are being spoken. In addition to, it enhances your ability to understand and to hear it. It helps with the rhythm of the language. So that is something to consider as well. And you can slow it down or you can fast forward the podcast and you can repeat it. That is so helpful and beneficial when you're learning a language, to be able to say, like, there's a topic that they're talking about that's really interesting to you, that you quite enjoy. It could be about like fashion. You can save that language, star it or favorite it on your favorite listening platform, and use that as a way to practice your ear. And if there were some words that you don't know, that's a great way to write it down what you heard, even if you misspell it, and then try to use a translator to make sure that you understand what that is. So it is also a vocabulary builder. So I do enjoy that quite thoroughly with listening to podcasts. With that being said, let's go ahead and get into this. All right, so the first one on my list that I would say is a good podcast to listen to is Duolingo. So Duolingo did launch their podcast. I believe it was around 2020 when they launched their listening. It is for beginners to intermediate level. And I would say that I am a B1 level learner at this time. I've been learning French on and off for quite some time, but now I'm here consistently, as I've mentioned before in some previous videos. It would be right here about my coming back to learning French. And Duolingo was what I used when I was jogging. I found that they were at a nice pace and rhythm. They would intersperse English and French together, so that was very helpful for me. So I had a chance to rewind if I needed to. I did save some of my favorite ones. The host was, he had a nice tone to his voice. I think that does help. I think his name is Golfin Butuwale. I believe his name is Golfin Butuwale. It's been a little bit since I've listened to it. I think they're probably on like season 4 or 5. I could be wrong, but they have definitely different other languages as well. They've got Spanish, they've got Italian, and then they launched French, which was incredibly helpful, and I was all over that like white on rice. So Duolingo. The next one I would recommend, now this one is more advanced if you really want to listen to the speed and how fast French speakers speak, how fast French speakers speak, I would say Real Life French. Now this one is very fast. I just got into this one about 2 months ago, and it's a little, for me, it's a little advanced because of the fact that the French are known for eating their words, because there's so many words that they have to say in one sentence, so they kind of chop it up and they garble some of the words. And so this one gives me real life listening opportunity to when it comes to listening to French. And I believe it's 1 or 2 individuals that are the hosts of that podcast. That podcast is about 15 minutes, not very long. And that's one thing that's really great about these podcasts, is that they don't take a long time to listen to, so you can kind of go back and re-listen to them. I think the longest one that I've got is about 30 minutes, so it's not bad at all. But that one would be Real Life French, and it's a favorite of mine. But if I really need to, I would listen to that one if I have the time to sit and be 100% focused. There are some podcasts that you can kind of play in the background while you're doing something else, like working or working out or running, as I was saying. So Real Life French really does provide that opportunity to listen to how fast the speed is. And honestly, it's a really good way to train your ear to prepare that when one day, when we are all fluent, we can be able to keep up with the pace of the conversation that's being said. Okay, so there's that. So that would be really good. Another one that I enjoy is InnerFrench. So this gentleman has a lot of videos. He's quite popular. InnerFrench is very good. He is actually, at the time that he started his podcast journey, I believe he was learning, I think it was Portuguese or something like that. No, Polish. I think it was Polish, excuse me. So he has just talking about the joy of learning a language, whatever language you choose. Obviously, it is in French. The majority of that has the French background, and he's speaking in French. So it does take a bit of concentration. It's not interspersed similar to Duolingo. I do kind of like that, but I think that after a certain point, it is important to take the training wheels off when you're learning a language, that you go all in and then you don't have any English. It's just, or whatever your language is, it's just that target language that you're learning. So InnerFrench is pretty good. I like that one as well. The next one I would say is Podcast Français Facile. So this one is more of a website. I was introduced to it by my favorite French teacher named Pearl from My French Story. She is absolutely amazing. I connected with her some years ago, back in 2019, and I do have a video about listing my favorite French teachers. So check that out when you get a chance. She is remarkable and she is fantastic. And so she's the one that introduced me to podcast Français Facile .com. And so the gentleman has a very nice tone to his voice as well. I do enjoy listening to his videos, and he does a lot of teaching, especially on grammar. So the website is full of information, full of important information that will be helpful in your learning language journey, in your language learning journey. So definitely check that out when you get a chance to. It is podcastfrancaisfacile.com. Okay, the next one I would say is French Through Stories. I love this one. I just discovered this one about less than 3 months ago. This one is really, really, really cool because the gentleman first reads a story in French. And again, these are not long podcast episodes. So he reads the language in French, and then he stops and he breaks it down sentence by sentence. He'll say it in English and then read it in French again, that sentence, le phrase or la phrase. And so, les phrases, pardon. He reads it again, les phrases, in that language. And so I love that because he pauses just a little bit and it's just enough time for me to be able to try to translate it myself, because I was looking for something that would help me translate on my own, like introduce a sentence in English, now translate it. Now, what would it be in French? And so that's what he does. I don't think he actually says to do that. And I don't always get it right. Oftentimes, like 60% of the time I don't, but it really is a good way for me to like get my brain moving and going. This one does require a bit of concentration and for you to focus on maybe washing dishes while you listen to him. And you can also pause it to see if you got that sentence correct before he speaks the sentence. So it's really good for that. The next one I would say, I should have put that as my top one because I really, really, really enjoy it. And it's my newest podcast. The next one is Passerelles. It is a French podcast for intermediate learners. This one, she has a lovely tone to her voice as well. She speaks slowly and calmly, and Le Printemps is the one I was just listening to. Le Printemps is basically spring season, and she talks about how the flowers bloom and everything else that happens during the springtime, which is true. But listening to that in French is so beautiful. It's really pretty. So definitely Passerelles is something to have on your list of French podcasts. Another one I would say is French Bla Bla. French Bla Bla is pretty fun. She's like 10 minutes and she gives tips and tricks on learning the language and like the French R, which I do have a video about that as well. What makes the French language a little bit difficult to learn. The French R is part of that. And so she had one episode of that I saved because she talks about where the French R is placed, where the R is placed in a word will make it either easier or more difficult to learn, which I found that to be 100% true. Definitely check her out, French Bla Bla. Very good podcast, and you can consume a lot of her episodes, and most of her episodes are in English, which is helpful to learn. And it really just depends on, this is the very first time I've ever heard that, like where the R is placed in a sentence makes, not a sentence, where the R is placed in the word makes all the difference in the world. Okay, so I think I got through all of them. Oh yes, how can I forget? Coffee Break French. This one I listened to for like 6 months when I would be walking my dog. Coffee Break French is fantastic. I think the guy is Irish, and he normally has dialogues with other people who are on the show as well. And it's really encouraging. I believe like his podcast is so encouraging, and I definitely recommend adding that to your arsenal. So those are my list that I recommend of the benefits of learning French through podcasts, as well as the different ones that I'm currently enjoying and listening to. And I just emphasize the importance of the accessibility and the entertainment, and it's also a cost-effective way to learn the language. Especially to train that ear to understand what you're hearing. Okay, so comment down below and let me know what are your favorite French podcasts to listen and learn alongside with everything else that you're learning. Let me know. And if you haven't already, please like this video. It does help me with the algorithm and gets this video and my other resources available and in front of